What if the toy you bring home with love is the very thing that destroys you? This is the terrifying story of the Golden Labubu doll, a doll so cursed that those who touch it never live to tell the tale. This is the story of Kavya, a beautiful young woman from Northeast India. Kavya had always believed the city would save her family. After her father's sudden death, she moved from her small village to Mumbai, determined to provide for her mother and younger sister. By day, she worked quietly in a toy store, arranging shelves, greeting customers, and smiling as children's eyes lit up at the sight of new toys. But by night, her heart belonged to her unusual obsession, collecting dolls. Her collection wasn't ordinary. She searched for rare pieces, dolls from distant countries, handcrafted faces that seemed almost alive. To her, each doll carried a story, a soul, a history waiting to be preserved. Friends teased her for it, but Kavya didn't care. Dolls made her feel less alone. One evening, as the store manager unpacked a shipment, something caught her eye. Nestled inside a velvet-lined box was a doll unlike any she had ever seen. A golden Labubu doll. Its surface glistened unnaturally under the fluorescent lights, the deep blue of its glassy eyes seeming to follow her, and the crooked smile stretched wider than it should. For a moment, Kavya shivered. Something about it felt wrong. Yet she couldn't resist. She claimed the doll for herself. The moment Kavya carried the golden Labubu doll into her apartment, her cat, Nisha, reacted in a way that sent chills down her spine. Normally calm and graceful, Nisha froze in the doorway, her back arched high, fur bristling like needles. A low, guttural hiss escaped her throat as her golden eyes locked on the doll. Kavya frowned. "What's wrong, girl? It's just a toy." But Nisha wouldn't move closer. Instead, she slunk into a corner, tail thrashing violently, her gaze fixed on the doll with unblinking intensity. Uneasy, Kavya placed the Labubu on her highest shelf, where it gleamed under the dim light. Its painted blue eyes seemed to shine brighter than before, following her across the room. She tried to laugh it off, muttering that cats were strange creatures, always sensing things humans couldn't. Hours later, when she turned off the lights and slipped into bed, the apartment was silent, except for Nisha's soft growls in the dark. Kavya pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders, but no comfort came. Because deep inside, she felt it too. The heavy, suffocating sense of being watched by something that did not belong. The clock struck 3 a.m. when Kavya's eyes snapped open. At first she thought it was a dream, but then she heard it. Soft, high-pitched giggles, like the laughter of a child hidden in the shadows. The sound echoed through the room, bouncing off the walls, playful yet sinister. Her breath quickened. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Silence answered, until the giggles returned, this time closer, right beside her bed. With trembling fingers, Kavya fumbled for the lamp switch. The bulb flickered to life, casting pale light across the room. And that's when her heart nearly stopped. The golden Labubu doll was no longer sitting safely on the shelf where she had placed it. Instead, it sat neatly on the corner of her bed, its tiny legs dangling over the edge. Its wide, glassy eyes stared straight into hers, and that crooked smile, now stretched wider, seemed almost alive. Kavya's scream caught in her throat. Her body froze, every instinct screaming at her to run, yet her limbs refused to move. From the corner of the room, Nisha hissed violently, fur standing on end,
her golden eyes fixed on the doll. The giggling had not stopped. Before Kavya could scream, Nisha leapt. The usually graceful cat became a furious blur of claws and teeth, hissing as she lunged at the golden Labubu doll. Her sharp nails tore into its golden surface, ripping at the fabric, shredding the cricket's smile apart. The room filled with the sound of violent thrashing, unnatural for a creature so small. Kavya's breath caught in her throat. Frozen in terror, she could only watch as Nisha clawed the doll until its stuffing spilled across the floor. The once gleaming eyes rolled free, glassy and cracked. When it was over, Nisha crouched low, chest heaving, her tail puffed out like a bristling shadow. Kavya, trembling, gathered the torn remains with shaking hands and shoved them into a trash bag. She dropped it into the bin outside, whispering to herself, "It's finished. It has to be." That night, she slept uneasy, but there were no whispers, no laughter. For the first time, silence filled her apartment. She convinced herself it was finally over. But the next morning, her relief shattered. Her palms were streaked with angry rashes that burned like fire, and Nisha was gone. Kavya woke with a knot of dread twisting in her stomach. The angry red rashes on her hands burned and throbbed, but worse than the pain was the silence in her apartment. Nisha hadn't returned. She called softly, shaking a small tin of cat treats. No paw steps, no answering meow. Panic rose in her throat as she tore through every corner of the apartment. Under the bed, in the cupboards, even behind the curtains. Nothing. Finally, she stepped into the kitchen. The air felt heavier here, damp with an unfamiliar metallic tang. And then she saw it. Her world shattered. Near the sink, Nisha's small body lay crumpled on the tiles. Blood pooled beneath her, dark and sticky, spreading slowly across the floor. Her once glossy fur was torn in patches, as though ripped by invisible claws. And her eyes, those bright, watchful eyes, were still open, wide with terror, reflecting a fear too human to bear. Kavya's knees buckled and she collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Her chest ached as if her heart were being squeezed by unseen hands. Somewhere behind her, the apartment creaked. The air grew colder. And though Nisha was gone, Kavya could not shake the feeling she was not alone. Kavya sat trembling in front of her laptop, the glow of the screen the only light in the darkened room. Her hands shook as she typed "Golden Labubu doll" into the search bar. At first, only cheerful advertisements appeared, bright images of the smiling figure, described as a rare collector's treasure. But as she scrolled deeper, the tone shifted. Her breath quickened. Headlines stared right back at her. Child dies after receiving golden doll. Unexplained illness strikes toy owners. Entire family disappears, doll found on bed. With each click, her dread grew heavier. Online forums were littered with desperate posts, people begging for answers, others warning never to bring the doll home. Some spoke of hearing laughter at night, of seeing the doll move when no one was watching. A few posted photos of mysterious rashes, nearly identical to the ones burning across Kavya's hands. The deeper she went, the darker the stories became. Some countries had banned the Labubu doll altogether. Priests, shamans, even professional exorcists had tried to destroy it, but every testimony ended the same way. The doll always returned.
Kavya's stomach dropped. Her nightmare wasn't unique. She had become part of a curse that spanned the world. Kavya's hands shook as she laid out the shredded remains of the Labubu doll. Even in pieces, its glassy blue eyes seemed to gleam faintly, as though mocking her. She doused the scraps with lighter fluid, struck a match, and watched the flames consume the golden skin. The fire hissed and crackled, black smoke curling upward as the doll's painted smile blistered and peeled away. The crooked grin melted into ash, the blue eyes finally cracking under the heat. Kavya covered her mouth, tears streaming as the plastic warped and bubbled. For
For the first time in days, she felt a fragile sense of control. When only ashes remained, she gathered them in a small container and walked to the river under cover of night. The water was still, almost eerily calm. She tipped the ashes into the current, watching as they scattered and sank, swallowed by the darkness below. Her chest rose with a shaky breath. She was free. She had to be. That night she called her sister. Her voice trembled as she poured out every horrifying detail. The laughter, the scratches, Nisha's death. Her sister's voice cracked, begging her to come home immediately. Kavya promised she would, but fate had other plans. The sun rose gently over the city, casting golden light into Kavya's apartment building. But behind her locked door, silence reigned. It was broken only when neighbors, alarmed that she hadn't emerged for work, knocked repeatedly. When no answer came, they forced their way inside. What they found would haunt them forever. Kavya lay sprawled across her bed, her eyes wide open, her mouth twisted in a silent scream. Her face was frozen in an expression of raw terror, as though she had witnessed something unspeakable in her final moments. The rashes on her hands had spread across her arms and neck, dark crimson marks etched into her skin like burns. But it wasn't her lifeless body that made the neighbors stagger back in horror. There, on the bed beside her, sat the golden Labubu doll. Its once melted skin was pristine again, shimmering as if it had never touched fire. Its blue eyes gleamed brighter than ever, and that crooked smile, unchanged, eternal, stretched wide as though savoring its victory. No one could explain how it had returned. No one dared touch it. The doll remained, watching, and it was still smiling. Some treasures are never meant to be owned. Curiosity can open doors that should remain shut, and once a curse finds you, it will follow until it claims what it desires most. So beware the smile that lingers too long. Not every doll is a toy. Some are traps, waiting for the next hand foolish enough to bring them home. If this tale sent shivers down your spine, remember, this is just one whisper from the shadows. Subscribe now to Whispering Hills Folktale, where legends breathe, curses awaken, and the forgotten will find you. Join us if you dare.